to you.
Who else were you expecting?
Well, but my boiler.
Well, after the surprising success of my ranking of the Thomas series, I thought it would be only right to rank the Thomas & Friends films too. And my god did I regret that almost instantly. I have very conflicted feelings when it comes to Thomas and its capability of making films. The series worked really well with its short stories, and having to make an hour-long film based on them is a tricky task to pull off well. And which one succeeded? Well, let's see. Here are my rankings of the Thomas & Friends films from worst to best. And before you ask, no, I won't be counting these pieces of dog shit, as they are not worthy of being called films. I think I'd rather gouge my eyes out with bleach than watch whatever in God's name you call this. Anyway, let's start.
Oh, I've had a stinker.
Yes, Magic Railroad is at the end of the list. And if you're wondering why, it's because I have no idea where to actually put it. I love the film, but it's also one of the worst films of all time. Its story makes absolutely fuck all sense, the voices for the characters are atrocious, the film switches from Solo to Shining Time so quickly you'd think the editor is having a seizure, the sets are trash, the story is trash, and the characters are mindless assholes. The whole film is just a messy pile of wank. And before you say, oh, but the director's cut, and pity, but
Shut up! Just shut up, you idiot!
the movie is appalling. Even if Boomerang was in the movie, it still would have done just as bad in the box office, if not worse. But yeah, isn't it weird that I still love the movie? What the fuck is wrong with me? Yeah, this movie is one of the most nostalgic pieces of media for me ever. And if you're watching this video and you like Magic Railroad, that's great. I'm glad you can find enjoyment out of it. I just want you all to know that this movie single-handedly killed Thomas. And that's factual. There's no debate or anything, that's just a straight up fact. And if you disagree, then I'm sorry, but you're just in denial. Now let me just say this, Magic Road isn't at the bottom of this list. I just wanted to get Magic Road out of the way, as I could go on forever explaining why this movie doesn't work. If you want to see my more in-depth opinions of this absolute catastrophe of a film, I made a whole video dedicated to it, so go and watch that. Now that's out of the way, what is the actual worst Thomas film? I mean, I'm sure it can't be that bad.
No, is he a twat, bro? Is he an actual twat?
Misty Island Rescue is an absolute shit show. Everyone in the Thomas fandom knows how bad Misty Island Rescue is. It's a stain on the Thomas franchise, and it's honestly a shame that it's as bad as it is because the concept is really good. It's just that the whole film is so unbearably kid-like. Every 10 seconds there's a stupid rhyme or unnecessary alliteration. And for what reason? Kids don't care if there's rhyming in a film. They'll recognise it for sure, but they're sure as hell ain't gonna remember it in a week's time. The whole concept of the logging locos is ridiculous too. Why would people build a whole ass railway for these 3 engines to fuck about on because they cause trouble on the mainland? Why not, oh I don't know, scrap them? I know scrapping engines wasn't really a talked about thing in this era. I mean hell, the Hit era briefly referenced it in one episode. And in Thomas to the Rescue they straight up show it, which I do applaud them for. But this film just makes up so much stuff that gets no explanation. I know this is a dumb kids film, but at least give a reason for why stuff is happening. Now, something that I will be doing in every film is talking about my favourite scene from each one. As while most of the Thomas films are pure dog shit, all of them have at least one good scene. And this film's good scene is this little one line here. It only lasts about 10 seconds, but hey, that just goes to show how horrific the film actually is.
Soon Thomas whooshed into Echo Valley and to his friends. James, Edward and Gordon tooted and hooted with happiness. The Fat Controller jumped for joy in James's cab.
Thomas!
The Fat Controller's hat flew high in the air, and into the mist, Thomas was worried.
Sir, your hat!
But the Fat Controller beamed.
Don't worry, I can find another hat. but I'll never find another Thomas.
Thomas smiled from bumper to buffer.
But is anything else in the film good? No. I mean, Whiff playing a big role was cool. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever, as he only arrived on Sodor a few years ago at this point, and even then he was a new engine, so how would he know about the tunnels? And the chase at the start is nice. It has way too much pointless narration and rhymes, but other than those semi-cool scenes, nah. The film is horrific, and I will not be revisiting it ever again. Because Big Adventures is a movie. A pretty crappy one too. This is by far the ugliest Thomas has ever been. And I've watched season 12. Like, seriously, why are the faces yellow half the time? Why does the animation look unfinished throughout the whole film? Like, bruh, this shit looks like that Hero of the Rose test footage where literally nothing moves. It looks so bad. Like, what the fuck? This thing was released in cinemas. I paid money to see this thing early. Why? Why did I put myself through that? Yeah, the movie is terrible. It has some good merits. Nia is actually a decent side character, but only when her and Thomas are abroad. When she's on Sodor, she just sticks out like a sore thumb. Unlucky Tug's video explains it perfectly. The songs in this film are actually fantastic as well. Sometimes You Make a Friend is fantastic, only the UK dub, and all the other ones are genuinely really catchy. But where it goes wrong is literally everything else. The US dub of this movie is atrocious. Joseph May can't sing to save his life. And the fact that people say he did a better job at Sometimes You Make a Friend than John Hassler is hilarious. Like, just listen to Joseph May's voice. He is struggling to hit those high notes, and even then, he fails at it. He did an okay job at the other songs, but this one really wasn't for him. The UK dub of the movie is way better. Now, what else is bad about the film? Oh yeah, it's runtime. For some reason, it's even longer than Journey Beyond Sodor, which was already 10 minutes over the normal runtime. Why did they do this? It just made the film drag even more. Oh yeah, my main issue with the movie, Ace. Throughout almost the whole film, the writers tried to make us think that Ace is a nice guy and that Thomas should be listening to him. But my god, he is an absolute dick here. It's not until the final act of the movie where they tell us that Ace was an asshole. Yeah, a bit too late for that, don't you think? And another issue, Thomas himself. Again, we're supposed to be rooting for this guy, and he makes it literally impossible. Upon my first watching, throughout the whole film, I was rooting for Nia, but the film kept putting focus on this twat. The good scene in this film is definitely the Sometimes You Make a Friend song. It's really nice, but the film is still shy, don't get me wrong. I could go on for hours about how this film is a disgrace to the franchise and how it ruined Thomas again. It was definitely an attempt to fix Thomas, but my god, did it fail miserably.
Come.
Day of the Diesels, what a missed potential, Jesus Christ. It's evident that Day of the Diesels wanted to be darker, but the higher ups it hit were like,
No.
literally, just watch the scene where Diesel 10 first appears and there's a genuine feel of threat that never appears again in the film. Apparently there's some kind of director's cut of the film that's a lot darker, but honestly, anything Thomas related that has a director's cut involved, I simply cannot be arsed with, for obvious reasons. The film itself just feels like some edgy fanfiction sequel to Magic Railroad. The new characters add absolutely fuck all to the story, with a few exceptions. Diesel 10's voice is the most unintimidating thing ever, and the way the steam engines talk about the diesels is really questionable. And once again, our main character, being Percy this time, is an absolute idiot. He thinks Thomas can't have friends other than him. I mean, sure, Thomas shouldn't completely ignore him, but still. And having Diesel 10 being told off by Fat Hat just makes him even less intimidating. The whole film is such a letdown. It has a lot of potential, but it fell into the hands of the family-friendly Hit Entertainment, whose only motive is to sell toys. Although, to be fair, the toys for this film slapped. Obviously, the scene I like the most is the scene where all the steam engines go to get back the steamworks. It's very cool, and the fact they play the main theme alongside it is really cool. Oh yeah, and the song that goes with this film is a bop too, so it gets a good brownie point for that. The ending is also really bad. It's not so much the ending itself, it's just the fact that they didn't stick to the moral, as in the following films and seasons to this one, they hate each other again, making this whole film pointless. I mean, it didn't have much of a purpose to begin with, but I mean, still.
Don't forget the thumbs up. Oh, friend. Oh, new friend. Oh, friend. Please be my friend. Oh, friend.
Calling All Engines is an absolute chore to sit through. It's by far the most boring Thomas film out there. The film is so boring that I don't even know what to mention about the film, other than the fact that it's boring. There are some good moments, don't get me wrong, I'll cover them in a second, but the film is so lackluster. The way it looks is dull as hell, the narration from Angelus and Brandon is horrible, and it's just not interesting. The only good things about the film are the songs, which are genuinely really good, and seeing Lady again is a nice touch, even if it doesn't make much sense at all. There's not really much to say about the film other than it's just really boring and not interesting. Oh yeah, and the learning segments grind the story to a halt and are extremely unnecessary and uninteresting. The best scene in the film is definitely the scene with Lady. There's something so whimsical about it. Overall, a snorefest you should definitely pass on.
I like it, but not a lot. I don't like it.
Okay, The Great Race. AKA, we want to sell as many toys as possible, the movie. Yeah, this movie is just one big toy commercial and it really shows. From the absurd amount of new characters that the film and its advertising try to make us think have personality, the amount of pointless scenes that add nothing to the story, and then there's that scene. Now the movie itself is enjoyable, but only a little bit. The film suffers from Calling All Engines syndrome, which in short means it's boring as hell. Now, the good things about this film are amazing. The songs are by far the highlights. The songs range from amazingly catchy to just ugh. Once again, Unlucky Tug's video explains this film and its glaring flaws perfectly. And because it's so much like Calling All Engines, I don't have much to say about it, because there's nothing to the movie. It's just constant filler and toy promotion. Definitely pass on this one.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Journey Beyond Sodor. I used to like you, but not anymore. Yeah, I have a very love-hate relationship with this thing. When I first saw it, I thought it was the best Thomas movie of all time. But then I watched Nike Tug's review on it and then realised, this film is garbage. And for a while, I hated it. But then it started to grow on me again. When looking at it on its own, it's okay. Not great, but just okay. It has a really good plot and some really strong characters, as well as some not so strong characters. But despite having really inconsistent animation and some pacing issues here and there, it's a fairly enjoyable Thomas film. Now, my main issue with the film isn't actually the bouncing, it's the other unrealistic parts, like this and this. This is the kind of stuff I honestly cannot stand. The bouncing was something that I had to get used to, and I ended up somewhat accepting it. But this? Nuh-uh. Also, a bit of an unpopular opinion here. For me, the songs in this film, yeah, I'm gonna say it, they're on par with the songs from The Great Race. I love the songs from this film. Well, I mean, except for Who's Thomas and What Can't We Do, as those are literally just conversations that are turned into songs. It's literally painful. And no, Someone Has to Be the Favourite is not an official song. It lasts for like 15 seconds, and saying that is a song is like saying Percy's Driver song from Percy and Harold is an official Thomas song. Exactly, they're not. Also, I know I'm in the minority here, but I love the end song for this film. It's by far my favourite scene in the film. I know it's somewhat generic, but I really love the way it feels like a true finale to the series. Thomas and James being the main characters also works really well too, even if James should have definitely been the lead. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Next one.
It was an important day in the yard.
Finally, we get to the good stuff. While King of the Railway needed some serious improvements, it was a pretty darn good shot at a first attempt at a film by Andrew Brenner and his crew. It's definitely not the most interesting Thomas film, and it can get very boring at some parts, but it has a lot of heart and feels very Brenner-esque. The animation isn't the prettiest, and it looks very basic, but I mean, it was their first attempt. I can't give them that much slack. Stephen is an amazing new addition to the series, and all three of the main characters, yes, I said three, are all perfectly in character. I know they argue a lot, but it's such a nice change to see Thomas, Percy and James get along. The other two new characters are but they get fleshed out in the season that came out the same year as this one, so I can definitely forgive them. Seeing Jack again was very cool, albeit a bit random how it's only him from the pack that's there, and not Miss Jenny or Alfie. But anyway, the best scene in the film is definitely the ending song with It's a Very Special Day. The draft version of that song is way better than the final one. Take a listen. The film is still a great watch, and it's definitely one of the most underrated Thomas films ever. I highly recommend you check it out. It's a lot of fun.
Welcome, Stanley!
Yeah, there's not really much to talk about when it comes to The Great Discovery. I mean, it's good. It's pretty good. I'm just gonna list the things that I like and don't like about the film. So let's start with the bad. Pierce Brosnan's narration is pretty bad. Even compared to Brandon, he isn't very good. He sounds like he's telling a bedtime story, and whenever there's a scene where an engine is shouting, he sounds like he's trying not to shout that loud, which defeats the whole purpose of being a narrator. You need to go for it. Stanley is also not a well-developed character. His only quote-unquote personality is that he's better than Thomas in almost every way. The whole concept of a lost town makes no sense, as Howard would have definitely spotted that by now. Yeah, that's about it. There's not really much wrong with it. Now, what's the good stuff? The range of characters is very refreshing. The film looks glorious in 1080p, the music is amazing, Thomas being the main character actually works for once. While Thomas You're the Leader is very overplayed, it's still one of the best Thomas songs of all time. The ending is very heartwarming. Thomas feeling alone and the fact he feels like he can't talk to anyone about his problems is a very nice touch, and it makes Thomas a very likeable main character. The stunts with the models are very impressive given that they are models. The crashes are amazing, as well as the tower collapsing. I could go on a lot longer, but I'll keep this one short. The Great Discovery is an absolute blast. It's a fantastic send-off to the model series, and for what it was, given that Sharon Miller wrote it, it's impressive that it's as good as it is.
From humble beginnings.
Yes, I know. How dare I not put The Adventure Begins at the top of the list? You're not a real fan. It's simple. I prefer season 1. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the gesture that this film was going for. It was practically made for us, and I can't thank them enough for making it, but it's just not as good as season 1. There is one part where it's better than season 1, and by that I mean Thomas chasing after James is just a lot more, it feels like Thomas earned his branch line by doing that, not just going to help him. It did add a scene or two that I really, really love.
Where are you taking us?
To Gordon. It's time for the express.
But we're not the express coaches. I'm Annie, and she is Clarabelle.
And the express coaches are on the other sidings.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry, your ladyships. You see, I'm new around here. I'm Thomas.
Oh, what a sweet little engine. Indeed, Annie. Delightful. He'll go far, Clarabelle. Just you wait and see.
The songs in this are amazing too. While it is just covers of the classic Thomas songs, they fit really nicely into the special and are genuinely good covers. This was also the first Thomas production to feature the best CGI Thomas voice, John Hassler. It's evident that he's getting used to things with Thomas, and that's very fitting. Thomas wasn't completely comfortable when he went to Sodor in the first place anyway. And my god, that end scene with the credits is unbeatable. That is by far my favourite scene. And let me just get this straight. From King of the Railway onwards, I love these movies. They're all flawed in some way, and there are going to be some biased opinions coming up. But I'm just getting things straight. Overall, The Adventure Begins is a heartwarming love letter to the adult Thomas fandom. Okay, Hero of the Rails. This is probably the most overhated Thomas film of the lot. And that's because it came out at the start of the awful era of Thomas. But honestly, this film showed hope for the future. It's just a shame that what came out afterwards was... yeah. But the film itself is pretty darn good. Spencer being the villain works surprisingly well. The engines all coming together to stop a fellow steam engine from being scrapped is a fantastic plot too. The weird cameos like Mavis when she heavily damages Spencer, then it's just played off for laughs, is just great. The chase scene at the end is extremely intense, the opening credits are very stylized, and some of the shots in this are really nice. Oh yeah, and the UK dub of this is amazing too, but only the UK dub. The US dub of this film is horrific, and Martin Sherman has absolutely no energy when playing Thomas in this. Don't get me wrong, he got very good. In Tell the Brave, he was really nice. But here, he just has no energy at all. Michael Angelis also surprisingly puts his all into this film. Literally, his energy in this movie is insane. Just listen to any scene where there's a big moment and you'll see what I mean. Hero is also an amazing character, and the other new characters introduced in this film are great too. The issues with this film are a bit annoying though. There is some unnecessary alliteration and rhyming, but nowhere near as much as there is in Misty Island Rescue. And this is an issue with nearly all the Miller films, as in a lot of scenes there's a load of unnecessary narration that just doesn't need to be said. Like, kids can figure out on their own what's happening. Other than a few slip-ups here and there, Hero of the Rails is a fantastic start to the CGI Thomas series. I mean, until this happened. Tell of the Brave is an absolute gem of the Brenner era. It has some issues, don't get me wrong, but its highs outshine its lows in more ways than one. Firstly, its setting. From the opening scene to the end shot, this film does not cease to please the eye. Mark Moorhan's narration is top notch, the songs are great for the most part, and the new characters are lovely too. Once again, for the most part. The action scenes are some of the best ever, and the last 15 minutes or so are some of the most exhilarating and intense Thomas scenes, period. Its issues though are pretty annoying. James is just way too mean in this. Like, we get it, James is a dick. But James wouldn't continuously bully one of his friends to the point where they would be too scared to pull the mail train. And the song Let's Be Brave is abysmal, and I hate how it's the end credit song. The scene with Cranky at the docks is by far my favourite scene from the film. It is quite unnecessary as Percy isn't even on the ship, but up until the point where they tell you Percy isn't in there, you're convinced Percy is leaving Sodor with Gator forever. And the panicked voices by Ben Small, Matt Wilkinson and Keith Wickham are absolutely stunning and heart-wrenching to listen to given the situation. This film has too many merits to count. Its soundtrack, its characters, the opening scene, the ending scene, the character arcs, the action scenes, everything is just so good. I cannot recommend Tell the Brave enough. Go and watch it now. Brilliant Martin Mystery was one of the most surprising things ever in the Thomas franchise. It came round in a time where all hope was lost in Thomas, and the two films previous to this one were abysmal. Things weren't looking good at all. But then, this glorious thing came around. Brilliant Martin Mystery is such a clever film. Yes, I said a talking choo-choo train Thomas film is clever. The whole film is about an engine in hiding, who is convinced he killed someone. I'm not exaggerating here, I'm not taking anything out of context, this is just straight up fact. And while Luke is hiding at the Blue Mountain Quarry, Thomas comes up to help with work after Paxton is heavily damaged after the bridge from the Blue Mountain Quarry itself fell on him. And while Thomas is there, he comes across to Luke. He asks the other engines who work there if they know who he is, in which everyone replies by saying that they don't have a clue what he's talking about. Thomas finally gets a chance to talk to Luke, and after a bit of persuading, Luke tells Thomas that when he arrived on Sodor, he wanted to be taken off the boat first, when he wasn't supposed to. And when he was being lifted out, he hit another engine off the boat and into the sea. The engine wasn't secured onto the boat properly in the first place, and he had been in danger since the boat departed to Sodor. But due to the engine being from a different country, he couldn't cry for help, as no one understood his language. The engine was in a state of disrepair, and Luke was convinced that the engine was scrapped, and so he hid in the quarry to never be confronted of it. After a lot of mystery solving, Thomas asks an engine called Victor, who fixes steam engines, if he knew him. But to Thomas's surprise, the engine was Victor. Yeah, that's a lot to take in. I applaud the writers for doing something like this. And making Victor, an engine who we didn't know much about, have a tragic backstory is an amazing idea, and makes for a very investing story. To explain how good the film is, you really just need to watch it. It's one of the more mature Thomas films out there, and oh my god, the songs in this film are off the charts. Working Together is an absolute bop, and the song called Blue Mountain Mystery is a perfect end credit song. I can't explain how amazing this film is, it's just so good. Now I know what you're thinking, how can you possibly get better than this? Well, it definitely can. And the next film on this list is on a whole nother level. Soros Legend of the Lost Treasure is by far the closest thing Thomas has ever gotten to a theatrical film. The way it's shot, the orchestral music, the celebrity voices that aren't the main focus of the marketing like most animated films do, the mature moments and dark undertones, the surprising violence and death threats, the fact a human is the villain and a genuinely dangerous criminal, the betrayal, the blackmail, the symbolism, the hints that a character could be dead. The film is by far the most mature Thomas film out there, and the film is one of the most mature animated films too. Sure, there's some wacky hijinks and visuals, but that doesn't deter from the seriousness of the story. Thomas being the main character fits perfectly, as he is the type of engine to seek attention from someone who is very sketchy after everyone turns on him. Everything in this film is played out 100% seriously. And do you want to know what that reminds me of? The classic series. Classic Thomas took its stories 100% seriously, whether the story was realistic or not, and this film does that so damn well. I was honoured to have the opportunity to see this in theatres back in late 2020, and that was one of the best experiences I have ever had in a while. I was the only person there, and having a theatre to myself watching Lost Treasure on a huge screen was an absolute treat, and I will never forget that day. Something also really good about this movie is Sailor John. Sailor John is definitely one of the most intimidating villains in Thomas history. I mean, behind Magic Railroad Diesel 10. Like, bruh, he legit tried to kill Mr. Conductor by throwing him off a bridge. Like, come on! Sailor John has literal dynamite, and he literally throws it at Thomas to try and potentially kill him and his crew. And when Skiff, his sailboat, tries to reason with him and talk him out of it, he threatens to straight up tear him apart and kill him. Once again, I'm not taking that out of context, and I'm not exaggerating it. That is literally what he's implying. Stuff like that brings a whole new level of seriousness to the story. And I love how the film is not scared to show that Sailor John is willing to kill Thomas or Skiff if he needs to. There are so many other amazing things about Lost Treasure that I love. I could talk for hours about why this is the best Thomas film and always will be. If you're looking for the definitive Thomas film, then look no further than Soros Legend of the Lost Treasure. It's intense, it's exciting, it's dark, and best of all, it has heart.
Running in circles.